Hello everybody, my name is Average Election Enjoyer. Today on March 9th of 2026, and in this video I am going to be breaking down the 2026 California Gubernatorial Elections. The final election to succeed incumbent Governor Gavin Newsom will be on November 3rd of 2026, but this video is more so going to be looking at the jungle primary that will be occurring on June 2nd of 2026. So it is rapidly upcoming. So it'll be occurring in, a little less than 2 months here. We will see who is going to be the top two in this race. And this race has, if you've seen, it's been going viral for just some sort of interesting caveats that come with having a nonpartisan primary, jungle primary system that I will be going into in this video. But now I'll just want to highlight some of the main candidates from either party. First, you have Katie Porter, who is a former U.S. representative, and she was a candidate for U.S. Senate in 2024. She was the frontrunner in this race until a scandal broke with her campaign, wherein she was caught on video yelling at her staff members and using inappropriate language towards her staff members, and that has sort of sunk her campaign. She's not out of it yet, however, she is not in the position she was just a couple of months ago. Next, you have Tom Steyer, who is a very wealthy progressive and former candidate for president in 2020. And for the final Democratic candidate who is likely to win, you have Eric Swalwell, U.S. Representative from California's 14th Congressional District. Right now, Tom Steyer and Eric Swalwell are the two front runners on the Democratic side. Even though there is no Democratic side, of the Democrats, those two are the front runners. However, the interesting thing you may have heard about this race, and the problem is that because it's a jungle primary, only the top two advance. So even though Democrats are going to gain about 60% of the vote in this jungle primary, maybe more, maybe less, probably they'll do pretty well because California has been pretty blue recently, especially against the Trump administration right now. They'll get a large portion. However, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 candidates on the Democratic side that are going to be splitting the votes amongst themselves. And you will see this when I show the polls later. That shows how on the Democratic side especially, you have Katie Porter, Tom Steyer, and Eric Swalwell each only getting about 15% of the vote. Each all splitting the vote amongst each other, and all the other candidates are taking anywhere from 5 to 1% of the vote for the Democratic Party. And then for the Republican Party, your two main candidates are going to be Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton. Chad Bianco, of course, being Riverside County Sheriff. He was famous for kneeling with BLM, and he's been attacked by Steve Hilton for being left of him. And then, of course, you have Steve Hilton, who is political commentator, and he was an advisor to Prime Minister David Cameron. And those are going to be your two main Republican candidates. And if you can see, Republicans have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 candidates declared for this race. However, their votes are much more concentrated among the top two. Republicans, as I said, getting about 40% of the vote. So Republicans are polling each, both Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are polling at about 18% each. So if you look at these polls, you'll see a Republican in the lead in all of these polls. And in some of them, you see both the Republicans leading because their votes are a lot less split amongst a bunch of viable candidates. Now, the problem for the Democrats in that is that if the Republicans manage to each gain 20% of the vote and the Democrats only manage to get 15 or above for each of their candidates, it doesn't matter if Democrats are getting 60% of the vote overall. All that matters is the top two candidates advance. So there is a chance that a lockout could occur and Democrats might be stuck with a Republican governor, despite it not being a Republican in a normal primary setting, a Democrat versus a Republican, the Republican is going to get destroyed. So that is something interesting that could occur in this race. So as you can see, these are some of the more recent polls. As you can see, the original polls had Porter up with a commanding lead over the rest of the Democratic field. And it was likely that she would have continued cruising. However, the scandal would break and she would, other than this poll in December that had her up, she would start to not do so well in comparison to some of the other Democrats here. Swalwell has shown a lead with the Democrats. And as you can see, Democrats haven't led in a poll in a fair bit of time. However, because of the Democrats being split amongst, you can see the every other Republican only has 1% or more, versus Democrats you have 1.7, 2, 2.7, 3, 3.74, 9, 11, and 14. You can see that the Democratic vote is very much so split. If you look at this total, Republicans are at less than 40% of the vote. Democrats are probably mid to high 50s in terms of the votes that they've been getting. However, you could see that in these last couple of polls, that this poll that happened February 18th, Republicans would have locked out the Democrats if this poll sort of comes true. And that would be a disaster for the Democratic Party here in California. So right now, there's a bit of controversy. There's calls for some of these candidates on the Democratic side to start dropping out so they can consolidate their support and prevent the lockout. However, the two Republicans actually have, in sort of the mean of all these races for each of them, they are the top two candidates in this primary. It would be a major upset. It is very unlikely that the Republicans manage to lock out the Democrats. It is way more likely that the Democrats coalesce around a candidate over the next month. As you can see, Eric Swalwell in terms of Cal Street, but we don't look at these a lot in terms of, because the poly markets are often wrong. Never trust the poly markets or online stuff. They could be right sometimes, but they are wrong. They were wrong on a lot of races back when the Texas primaries were being held. So just a note, don't trust these online sort of trading websites if you're going to be I'm not saying polls are perfect, but they're definitely better than these, because these are wrong quite a bit of the time. But it's an interesting situation possibly occurring with Bianco and Hilton. If they are to advance to a runoff, it would be interesting to see if the Democrats would try to run a write-in candidate. However, that would be a disaster for the Democrats if that would occur. However, I think it's very unlikely for that to happen. I can imagine that the Democrats are probably going to consolidate along Swalwell. However, we'll have to see how that sort of goes in, of course, the next 2 months. We'll see if that sort of happens. However, that is my prediction, is that they'll consolidate amongst one of these two candidates, because I think Porter's campaign is sort of got hit by a meteor with that scandal. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.